done is better than perfect. So instead of telling yourself, for the next 3 months, I'm going to drink 0 alcohol, tell yourself, maybe for the next 3 months, I am allowed 1 drink every week.
This is episode number 9 of the Earkick podcast. And you just heard Chloe, a certified digital well-being coach and founder of This Too Shall Grow from Paris, France. I'm Karen Steffen, co-founder and COO of Earkick, and today's topic is all about habits. Welcome, Chloe. We're happy to have you. And since healthy habits and healthy routines is one of your specialties, I'd love to know more how you got to where you are right now.
My background is in tech. I used to be a UX designer and UX researcher. I wanted to see how we could create better tech for people. You lose a lot of time on social media. You get unnecessarily anxious. It gets in the way of your well-being, of your sleep, your attention, all of that. So that was the origin story of This Too Shall Grow. And then, yes, I decided to look into coaching, and instead of talking to people working at tech companies, also talk to people who are using a smartphone all the time about how they can use it in a way that works better for them, how to change your behavior and your habits, and to maybe change your settings on your phone or something like this, so that you maximize the ways in which it benefits you and you reduces the ways in which it may cause you harm.
What are habits, essentially?
Habits are repeating behaviors that are less conscious than most of our actions. So if right now I take this and I shake it in front of you, it's a very deliberate action that I just did. But habits are less conscious. For instance, the commute that you take every day to go to work, or if the first thing that you do every morning is to make yourself some tea, you don't have to make that deliberate choice every day. But by then it's a habit and it's less conscious.
And why are habits so important for us? Why do we need them?
Habits are really useful when we have a goal and we have to or want to change our behavior so that we reach that goal. Anything new that we want to learn, a new language, a new instrument, something at work, we want to be regular in exercising. Having a habit is going to allow us to repeat that behavior without having to make a conscious effort each time to sit down with our Italian book or to go to the gym or something like that.
We sort of have bad habits or habits that we'd like to get rid of. Why do they get established? We didn't ask for them. Can you shine a light on that?
These bad habits often still reward us in some way. For instance, eating something that maybe is not super healthy, but is comforting, it's still going to make us feel good. So it might be seen as a bad habit for someone who wants to eat really, really healthy. But because it makes us feel good, even if it's not something very conscious, we might keep that habit and keep having pizza every evening because it does feel good. And losing a habit, it's a very deliberate effort that we need to get to stop behavior that maybe we've been repeating for months or years and rewire our brain so that we replace it with something else.
Seems like we have to first understand our own habits and patterns and get kind of an overview of what is there that we want to keep and what is there that we want to break.
Yeah, absolutely. And also what is not there, but what we might want to create for ourselves. One thing that's really important is understanding their current environment. A lot of people that I talk to for coaching work from home. And that's a very different environment in which to create new habits than if you have to go to work physically every day. If you have strict hours because that's how your job works, or if you're self-employed or you have a more flexible schedule. And if you live alone, or if you have a partner and maybe kids and a dog at home. So understanding the environment is key to then either changing that environment or relying on it so that then you can build healthier habits.
What is a good way to get in and not have to give up after a week or two because it's just too much?
So to me, there are two keys to that. One is understanding why you want to have that habit in the first place, really tapping in like the underlying reason for it, the deep roots. So maybe you want to be healthier, maybe it's very personal to you because you want to be healthier so that you can play with your kids more and you want to be able to rough around with them and all of that. The underlying reason is what is going to guide you, and that's going to be something useful to tap into if some days where it's not going as well as you wished. And the other thing that is really, really important is setting up a system with accountability. You have to really get concrete with it. So what I do when I coach clients is, okay, you want to do this. When? How many times per week? Where is it going to happen? How are you going to remind yourself to do it? Are you going to have like an alarm or something triggering that's going to remind you, okay, now it's time to do this? Accountability. Are you going to talk about it with your partner, with your friends? Are you going to do it with someone else at the same time? Are you going to set a system that works for you? Are you going to check in with yourself maybe once a week to see if you can stick to it? And if you don't stick to it, are you going to take the time to see how you can bring yourself back on tracks? All of that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason why in our Earkick app, we have this section for goals and habits where you can pick one and you can set nudges and reminders, and you can reflect on how many times you want to do it, what days you want to do it, what days you want to skip. And we remind people that the goals of changing habits should be small. What do you think of technology helping to establish or break habits?
I think it can be really, really useful. And there's a lot in tech that we can leverage to help us create better habits for ourselves. So something that I see very often is a habit tracker. And it's really good, I think, for two main reasons. One is it's a concrete thing, like a concrete gesture that you can do maybe on your phone and say, okay, today I have done that, and mark it for yourself and be happy with yourself. And the other one is the reminder. So if it's an app on your phone, just by unlocking your phone and seeing your app, this alone can be a visual reminder that, hey, I have this new habit that I'm trying to incorporate into my life and I haven't done it yet today. So I'm going to try to make some time for it.
Let's say I want to stop drinking wine or beer, which is, it's a lot of pleasure drinking some wine. If that is a difficult thing to do, is there any trick, any hack to make it easier, especially when you have lots of friends who still drink, or when it's readily available, or when you have gotten so used to having that glass of wine?
One is spending time with people who have that lifestyle already, so that you're not so tempted to crack a beer open or something like this. That's going to make it easier for you. Another one is done is better than perfect. So instead of telling yourself, for the next 3 months, I'm going to drink 0 alcohol, it's probably easier and less of a pressure on yourself to tell yourself, maybe for the next 3 months, I am allowed 1 drink every week or 1 drink every 2 weeks. So it's not that hard at first, and little by little you rewire your brain, you find other sources of reward, and this one becomes smaller, and maybe other ones like self-satisfaction of losing that habit becomes bigger, and little by little you can let it go.
And what if I know, for example, that I tend to be tense at work and stressed, and I would like to incorporate breathing exercises throughout the day, at least once. But I have never done this before. I only know the theory that it's good for me. How do I go about that? I mean, we offer those breathing exercises
on the app. But, is there a trick how to smoothly build up such a habit?
Well, something that can help a lot is to rely on the different types of triggers for habits. There are 5 common triggers: the time of the day, the place where you are, maybe each morning when you are in the tram to go to work, the event that happened just before. So if you want to practice this breathing exercise every day after lunch, you can pair them together. Then there's your emotional state, which is a tricky one because it really requires you to tune into your own feeling and notice, right now I am feeling tense, so I should do the breathing exercise. And the last one is to rely on other people. So if you know someone else who does this breathing exercise at work, you can ask to do them with you and you meet together every day, and that makes it easier to create your own habit for it.
I have also seen you talk about implementing intentions to help yourself by writing beforehand if-then statement.
For instance, if you take the example of the person who wants to quit drinking alcohol again, someone might use this type of if-then statement to prepare themselves in advance. So one could say, if I am out with friends and they offer me a glass of wine or a beer, then I will choose to get a soda instead. And then they're already prepared. They have already decided what their replacement or what their action will be. And then when they are in the moment and someone offers them alcohol, they already know what their course of action is. So it makes it easier to stick to your goal if you already have decided that beforehand.
Can you talk a bit more about the neural pathways that you can overwrite in a way that everyone can understand?
Say someone feels satisfaction each time they eat pizza. I'm going to use that example again. It's an association in their brain between this type of food and then a reward. So we naturally feel rewarded for eating, and that's one of the things that keeps us alive and keeps our species alive, because something in our brain makes us feel good each time we eat, and so we keep eating because it feels good each time. That's how a neural pathway works. You have an action, something that you do, and then something that you feel. And to lose that habit, you can't just erase a neural pathway like this. Instead, you build new ones. So maybe you learn to associate something else with the feeling of feeling good, a different type of food, and that bond becomes stronger over time than the bond with pizza or any type of junk food. And that's how you're going to create a new neural pathway and rely on this one, and little by little the other one, because you don't use it as much as you used to. That's what's going to allow you to lose that habit and to build a new habit with a new neural pathway.
We spend many, many hours, not at home, but at work, or maybe we work at home. Mental health at work has become such an important topic. Can you share some of the tricks and tips to keep good habits going at work?
One thing that's important is your attention. People are often praised because they multitask, and it's like, wow, I'm being so efficient and I do 3 things at once, but we're really not good at this. And our brain isn't made for this. So often, like, it might take us longer, or we might make more mistakes, or maybe it doesn't take us longer, but it ends up leaving us more stressed out and more anxious because we're juggling in between these tasks all the time. Multitasking isn't good for, in general, our well-being and feeling relaxed. And it also isn't good longer term for our attention, because when we jump from one task to the next, say I do 5 minutes on A, 5 minutes on B, 5 minutes on C, and then I go back, or even sometimes 10 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 seconds, I habituate my brain to feeling a very high level of stimulation because I feel like I'm doing a lot of things. And also I habituate my brain to feeling very rewarded because I feel like I'm accomplishing a lot. If we're used to this, then it becomes really hard to do deep, focused work. If you want to sit down for 1 or 2 hours and do just one thing for which we really need to focus, it's going to be really hard because we're used to being really stimulated and feeling like a lot is going on at once. Your brain is like, this is so unpleasant compared to what I am used to. And so it makes it really hard to do deep focused work.
There is a certain amount of time that we have to use tools and digital devices where we cannot just, turn it off and not be there. I imagine salespeople or people who are customer facing, they are constantly having to use those devices. What's a good way to still have a healthy relationship with digital tools?
Something that comes very often is people's needs for boundaries. And that's a little bit linked to multitasking. Boundaries in the sense of when I'm doing this one task, if I'm like answering emails or writing something, a document, a brief, anything, not to be also, bothered by notifications and one person comes in to ask you something and you can't really focus on what you want to. So boundaries could be, right now I'm not talking. Don't come ask me something for the next 2 hours. Deactivating your notifications, learning not to check your emails every 15 minutes anymore, and managing expectations of the people that you work with. That's also true outside of your working hours, when if you're on the weekend or in the evening at home, making it very clear that these are your resting hours and you need them for your own mental health and well-being, and you're not going to be looking at your emails or Slack or Microsoft Teams or whatever you use at the same time.
Do you have any good tip for helping people use the help that digital technology offers, but not get stuck on any of those other apps that just, give you content until you forget time?
Time limits, 20-minute time limit per day on social media. Something else is to have phone-free places, either at home or at work, or phone-free times that you decide upon in advance. Some people don't take a look at their phone for 24 hours on the weekend, or no phone in the bedroom at home, or no phone at the table when we're having dinner.
We have to, set the goal, make sure that it's specific and that it's achievable.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have to keep ourselves accountable somehow. It can be, again, through the app or with a list or something, or telling someone. And we also need to have some kind of expectation as to when this habit should be in place and safe.
It's so dependent on the habit and the person and their environment. The only thing that I would recommend is keep trying. Sometimes it's going to take 1 year and you're going to feel like you failed, but maybe you failed closer to your goal, and that's still good progress.
Back to not having to be perfect. Now, the last question, I would love to know, what habit have you built or broken lately that you are really proud of?
To get up early. So I'm trying to get up at 6:30. It worked the last 2 days, not today. Today I needed more sleep. But I realized that I really like having at least 2 hours to do deep work in the morning. And that's also the time where I prefer to go to the gym rather than afternoon or evening. So I thought, okay, I just need to give myself more morning to extend my morning. And so I'm going to get up earlier.